Mini episode 1154 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.com.
The FDH Lounge. You want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to FDH Lounge mini episode number 1154. This is FDH Managing Partner Rick Morris here with one of my favorite FDH Lounge dignitaries, my good friend Ken Detwiler, a gentleman where I used to be the sidekick on his baseball show years ago, back at the old Sports Talk Network, the late-lamented sportstalknetwork.com, the show Life's a Pitch with Ken Detwiler, and we have referred to this previously, and now this is an annual rite of spring to do so. Next spring, when we do our baseball preview for 2020, it'll be our third annual Don Coster tribute show. Don was my fellow sidekick on the show, Ken's brother-in-law, a gentleman who passed away, and again, this is the second year now that we have done this to honor him. Coming into this season, we did this, and we'll do so again next spring, but the occasion today is to talk about the 2019 MLB playoffs. And again, continuing a long run with Ken and I that I believe goes back to 2004 at STN back in the day. So very happy to do it one more time, my friend. Great to have you here.
It's great to have you ask me. It's just always a privilege. Every time we can get together, that gets us, we go off topic, go squirrel, we go whatever you want to, go nuts, maybe that's what you want to call it. But
that's right.
We tend to go our own way, and we have a blast with it, and hopefully we're a little insightful, or if you're betting out there, you can completely go the other way and lose some money. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy. You must be referencing my NFL picks this year when you talk about going the other way, but
oh no,
it is.
Oh, that bad, huh?
It's not been a great decorated start to the season, but trending up from a very bitter first 2 weeks here, looking a little bit better, and hopefully going to be doing better week 4. Week 4 is still in progress here as you and I are talking. But we do now know the field for the baseball playoffs. Everything had been in flux until the final day, specifically what was going to be the case in the NL Central. It will be, as was widely anticipated, St. Louis winning the division. Milwaukee's rally to win the Central comes up just a little bit short, but they have the fallback of the wild card game. They will be playing at Washington. You have Tampa Bay at Oakland in the American League. Cleveland Indians making a long run up until almost the final weekend. I mean, theoretically, the elimination was Friday night. Realistically, it came, I would say, in Chicago when all the margin of error ran out. But as far as the wild card scenarios in the two leagues here, by the way, we have up at fantasydrafthelp.com. We've been doing this throughout the course of the season, at mid-year, at Labor Day, and now end of season, our ultimate quantitative baseline statistics. So we have this here. You can compare how teams shake out in the different ways. And in looking at the American League one, Ken, you've got Oakland that placed out third in all of baseball. And while it might surprise some people, the highest ranking team in the American League on this statistic. Tampa Bay is 7th, just behind the Yankees at 6th. And when you look at this, again, it really is a matter where both teams are above average across the board. For Tampa Bay, on-base percentage, 12th. That's where they're a little bit lower. And then the SRS thing here, the statistic as well, which is one of the true indicators of what your record should be. So that's as low as they were. They were strong in many other areas. Third in ERA plus, first in FIP. Oakland, their lowest thing was 10th in OBP, 13th in FIP, 9th in ERA plus, but top 5 in just about all other categories here. So Oakland and Tampa, that one looks like it's going to be really, really incredible here. It is a matter, when you look at the two of these teams, it's a shame one of them is going to be out in the first round, particularly because both of them look, I'd say, stronger than either team from the NL Central, and yet one of them is going to be going bye-bye. I lean a little bit towards Oakland since they're going to be at home for this one, but how do you see it?
Yeah, let me just put a little anecdote. If I go squirrel on you again, just bring me back in here, Rick. But
sure.
I think the Indians did a terrific job for what they had.
Yep.
But you know it wasn't in the cards for them when the guy that beat him and took him out was Detwiler.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's not a good sign.
No, it's not. No, it is not.
But at any rate, so what you're saying, I find myself shaking my head here because we very rarely agree. I couldn't have worded it any better. I think Tampa's got a great squad. I don't know how they keep coming back and rebuilding all the time, or Oakland for that matter. However, I think Oakland, I have to give the edge to Oakland. And one silly edge is because there's nobody in Florida who will support these teams. And that is the god-awfulest place to watch a ball game in Tampa. And so I just, I'm with you. I think Oakland should prevail. And I agree also, again, with everything, like I said, everything you said, Ray. It was just, they could beat anybody in the Central. I mean, Cleveland was, when they kept saying 2 out of 3 teams, I'm thinking, Cleveland's not that strong.
Yeah.
Especially with the entry fit. And it's just like, no, which is the wrong package by going to the square hole here. And it wasn't Tampa and it wasn't Oakland. It was Cleveland. When the music stopped, they were sent home. So.
Well, yeah, and our FDH Director of Research, Nate Noy, texted me a couple days ago when it still looked like the Indians might win 95 games. It's something like, in the modern era, nobody's ever won 95 games and missed the playoffs. And I texted him back and I said, look, in terms of doing our power rankings here, we also do the power rankings by division. And the other 5 divisions are as closely bunched as anything you'll find in sports right now. There's not much to separate the other 5 divisions in baseball. And there is a big drop-off when you get to the AL Central. I mean, yes, the Twins took a big step forward this year. But the White Sox are definitely, let's be kind, below average. Kansas City and Detroit are the drizzling shiznits. The Indians played one of the easiest schedules you could have. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, better record than the teams in the NL Central. The NL Central teams probably played a tougher schedule, and by probably I mean definitely. So everything kind of evens out.
Yeah, it shifts, it goes. But count me down. I'm with you on that. I think the A's will prevail and move on, as they say.
Yeah, that's what I see. And then in the National League, I don't see it even being close to as evenly matched potentially as the American League game, because I look at this. Washington came in tied for 4th on our UQB, and you look at Milwaukee, they're sitting at 15th. They're a team that got hot late in the year, but almost all of their categories on our statistical breakdown, again, you can find us on the front page at fantasydrafthelp.com, they're pretty much squarely middle of the pack most areas. Washington, again, as you would expect, very strong certain areas here. Second in OBP, but then you look on the other side of the ball, 9th in ERA plus, so they're doing pretty good there. And again, FIP of 7th. They've got a very, very strong rotation. We know they're sending out their big gun for this one here, and that's pretty much all I need to know, is that they're going to be going with Scherzer, and I don't think I even need to know anything else about Milwaukee without being too simplistic. So I'm on Washington.
Jeez. Dirk, can I somehow get your notes instead of a copy of your, all the hard work you did with the rankings here? I'm honestly not. Yeah, I'm really, really high on the Nationals.
Yeah.
For the pitching alone, I think their bullpen's weak. It's not the strongest.
That's right.
But you got Strasburg up there, and he's striking out. Probably having his best year, if not ever. at least for a long time on the mound. They go along with Scherzer. No, I like the Nationals to prevail too, and I'm like you. I think the Brewers are a little Johnny-come-lately, and they showed that last year. They weren't very. I don't want to say they weren't efficient or weren't good, because you have to be good to be in the playoffs. But I just didn't see them going deep. So, and this year I think they're. Hey, thanks for coming.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, this is one of these things where sometimes you look at it and you say if there was any justice, then these two teams would be on opposite sides of the bracket. And I think that is the case. I'll start with this series here with the Dodgers and with Washington because, again, I say this as somebody who picked the Dodgers to win it all before the beginning of the year, and I have stuck with that all the way through. So it's a measure of how much respect I have for Washington that, again, I see them winning the wild card. I see them taking the Dodgers to 5. And we're used to saying every October, oh, same old Nationals. I don't think it's fair to say that if they take the Dodgers to 5 because we know what a juggernaut L.A. is. But I think they're really going to make them work for it all the way. I cannot, in the end, go against the Dodgers because I just don't really see any weaknesses there with them. Like you said, Washington, there's the bullpen, and again, that could really be something. In games that are going to be as tight and go down to the wire as I think at least a couple of them will in the end, I think that will be the difference. But I say Dodgers in 5, but that Washington's not going to have anything to hang their head over. How do you see it?
Well, it's funny for a guy who took the Cubs over the Nationals in the NLCS back in March when we had Steve on. Sorry, Joe Madden. My apologies. However, this, I think, is going to be a great series, but you're right. If you go by the stats and everything, you got to go with the Dodgers. I mean, they're first in almost every category, whether it's pitching, whether it's hitting, whether it's whatever. I mean, these guys are a machine. But we've seen machines before fail, but I'm with you again. Agreement number 2 on our picks. I'm going to go with the Dodgers over the Nationals in a very, very exciting, interesting series, I think.
I think it will be as well. When you throw out, we have one ranking in there that is 1/2 strength of schedule and 1/2 power ranking. So it's basically how you did in the power rankings, but also factoring equally the schedule that you had. You throw that out for the Dodgers, they were 15th, so they were kind of middle of the pack because the rest of their division was a little mediocre. You throw that out, their lowest ranking in any of these categories here was 6th in OBP, 6th in baseball, and that was the lowest that they came in any of the rest of them. So yeah, it's a matter of when you're Washington, you can win this series. You can. You're good enough, but you got to be perfect to do it. There is no margin for error. And again, just by definition, any series that goes 5, clearly either team can win it. But Washington is going to have to be very, very perfect. And not to throw their history back in the face, but that has not been their history when they've gotten to October, is for that to be the case. Wouldn't that be something if the first series win that they get since moving from Montreal would come against the juggernaut like the Dodgers? I say that it's a shame that they're on the same side of the bracket because, again, you go to the other side here with Atlanta, which I've maybe got a little bit more regard for where they're at right now just because they are so talented, albeit so young. But again, Washington actually came in ahead of Atlanta on our UQB system here. Atlanta ranking 8th in baseball. St. Louis 13th, and this is one of these things here where I don't want to take anything away from them. And again, you look at as far as the pitching side of the ball, 5th in ERA plus, and 11th in an FIP category, so a little bit lower there, but still above average. But you look at it, and particularly with the offensive categories, you wonder how the hell St. Louis is here exactly. 18th in OBP, 20th in OPS plus. My man Paul Goldschmidt, who I've had on my fantasy teams a couple times over the years, this was not necessarily his best season, and he's their big gun. He's sort of more rounding into form the later you go into the season here. You look at those two teams, I'm saying Atlanta in this one, and I think it's going to go 5 as well because I think St. Louis is a scrappy team. I think they can push a young but more talented Braves team to the brink. I see the Braves getting through, but I see it taking more effort than it probably should against the St. Louis team where, again, with all due respect, you look at them on paper, you scratch your head, and you go, how the hell are these guys here?
Yeah, and now this is where we're going to part ways. I'm going to choose the Cardinals in a very good series, like you said. I think the youth is going to go against them.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to sound like my grandfather and my dad talking to me. Well, they've never been there before. And, you know, you got to lose the first time, and then the second time, go this, you know, this step, so forth. And no, that's not where I'm going with this. However, the Cardinals, for whatever reason, whenever there's a mistake or a break, and it's just in their history too, right? It's just even more head scratching to me anyway. These guys come through, and it's almost like they expect to win.
Yeah.
At some point, there's going to be a crack in the armor of the other team, or a hiccup, whatever you want to call it, and that'll be enough to just all of a sudden here they are. Boom, they're on top by 2 now, and it's like, wow, how'd that happen? And and that's why I'm going with it. Because I think maybe it's better coaching. I don't know. This could be history. The field, the fans. Again, Atlanta, the fan base doesn't do anything for me. Down there as far as promoting their team, helping it. Maybe I'm way off because I'm so far away. But their youth. If they make a mistake, it'll be a doozy, I think. Or could be. Atlanta, that is. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
I think it will be a doozy, and again, I agree with you. I think Mike Schultz is the manager of the year in the National League for getting St. Louis through here, because that's a division without any real juggernauts. The Cubs could have been if they didn't underachieve and have injuries and whatnot, but a very, very, very strong division. And you look at, again, the way that Cincinnati improved with their pitching this year, taking a giant leap forward there. I mean, even Cincinnati wasn't a typical doormat. Pittsburgh kind of was, but Cincinnati not as much. And yet St. Louis manages to emerge from a strong division. They have my respect for that, and I agree with you. If you're looking at like 3-2 type games, if you're looking at games where you got to maybe squeeze in a run or something like that, as opposed to, again, Atlanta with the overwhelming physical talent of you could see where an Acuna or an Albies or somebody like that might do something sensational. They're probably going to win a game like 11-2, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win the series. So you and I both see it going 5. So I guess the easiest way to look at this is then again, obviously both of us have them going up against the Dodgers. They've been my pick all year to come out of the National League. I'm staying with that, and to me, again, I think Atlanta can stretch them to 6 on talent alone, and just because, again, the interesting thing is with the Dodgers that nothing with them ever seems to come as easy as the talent differential sometimes indicates that it should, and I'm talking about even some of the years they've lost in the playoffs previous to this run now. I'm thinking earlier in the decade. They have a long and storied history in the playoffs, going back to the 80s with St. Louis. And again, the Dodgers, the Cardinals, the Giants, that's the triumvirate over the course of history that has sort of dominated the National League pennant scene. So I'm very intrigued that you see a re-eruption of the Dodger-Cardinal rivalry in October. Again, I'm picking Atlanta to be there. I don't think they can get past the Dodgers. I think they can put a mild-sized scare in them. Do you think St. Louis can do anything more than put a mild-sized scare in the Dodgers?
No, I think the toughest, toughest opponent they have is the series before when they play the Nationals.
Yep.
I think those are the 2 top teams, in my opinion, Rick, on the National League side of this whole equation. So the NLCS, in my mind, is already been played. Dodgers and the Nationals, and I don't think anybody's going to. If the Nats don't do it, I think the Dodgers are going to take it anyway. So, I'm going to go with the Dodgers in the World Series.
Yeah, that's been my pick all year. I will pick them to win the National League pennant. Over in the American League, we both agreed Oakland over Tampa Bay in the wild card game. That's going to put them in there against Houston. And again, it's almost exactly the same question that I asked about the National League Championship Series, and that is, can either of these two teams go toe-to-toe with Houston? And I look at it because, again, I think either Oakland or Tampa I would probably take at this point potentially above Atlanta or St. Louis. And yet, to me, Houston, when you look at this here, again, you throw out the strength of schedule / power ranking number where they're still fifth in baseball. That is their lowest category. They are first, second, or third in everything else, and the only thing that they're third in is FIP. They are first in OBP, OPS+, first on the Pythagorean record, second on the SRS, first on run differential. Houston, if you just look at these numbers, Houston is actually on a tier of their own. So I think Tampa Bay can take a game from them, but I have Oakland can take a game from them, but I have a hard time seeing it going further than that. What say you?
Yeah, I said to myself once they picked up Greinke,
yeah,
I don't know if they would have to have some horrific thing happen to them because now they got a staff unlike anybody else, and it's going to be interesting the beauty of the beast as far as pitching versus the Yankees. Those guys are just murderers row in the new millennium here at the Yankees. However, the staff that the Astros have, it's just, and I always lean towards the pitching anyway, but I just think that they're going to be, the Astros are going to be the thing, be the cat's meow here. And I could be wrong. The Yankees could come out and just hit a few over that small porch in right field and catch a couple of breaks, but boy, wow. I mean, that is one impressive pitching staff.
It really, really is. It's one for the ages. And again, I guess we can sort of take this next one together because you and I both seem to agree Houston's coming out of the American League. I've got them in 6 over the Yankees. That means I've got the Yankees over Minnesota in 5. 2 slugfest-type teams. If you look at the numbers here, again, Minnesota better in the pitching. Although not really, you don't think of them as having ace-level type stuff, but 4th in FIP, 6th in ERA+. I mean, that's pretty respectable. The Yankees, meanwhile, are 17th and 12th in those 2 categories. And again, so on paper, you might look at it and you might think this is a good window for Minnesota to avenge some of their recent losses to the Yankees in October. I don't see it. I see the Yankees, particularly with that back end of the bullpen. That, to me, is going to be the differentiator, is that they're going to manage to get it to the late inning guys. And if you're not beating the Yankees after 5 or 6 innings, you ain't beating them. I'll say it goes 5. I'll take the Yankees, but then to go down to Houston. So how do you see it shaking out?
As far as Minnesota?
Minnesota and the Yankees, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like you. I don't see it, but boy, would I love to see it. Minnesota knock them off.
Sure.
And that's my bias against the
sure.
Yankees. But,
me too.
But I still think the Yankees will come out on top. I mean, those be the 2 top home run hitting teams that beat Major Leagues. I don't know if that's how it finished out or not.
Right. I believe so.
Yeah, I believe they go top 300 home runs for the year.
Yeah.
But I see the Yankees coming out because the Yankees do have a terrific bullpen, I think. But you got to get to them, and they get to them early. But
yeah.
I just don't see it. And so I see the Yankees playing.
Yeah, and that's ultimately, the way that it's going to shake out is, I think you're looking at a scenario where, as much as I have seen, some comparisons here to 2017, and home field, it was determinative in the ALCS. I don't see that being the case this time. I think it was more of a coin flip between the Astros and the Yankees last time. But the Astros have such a bigger gap in terms of pitching right now. And with Yordan Alvarez in that lineup their lineup, this is the best version of the Astros, I think, hitting-wise that we've seen. Bregman is having an MVP-type year. Carlos Correa is playing better than he was 2 years ago. So I think Houston has pulled away from the Yankees sufficiently that it's not going to be a matter of, if the Yankees had had home field, they'd have won the series. I don't think it'll be as close as that. I see it going 6, but not 7 in a nail-biter like last time.
Over the Yankees,
yeah.
Yeah, I could see 6 games. I surely can. I still like another addition. maybe I'm just being a homer here. I think the addition of Michael Brantley side,
Yeah.
Greinke being added, they press the right buttons down there in Houston, and so yeah, I'm going to go with the Astros. I'll probably go with the Astros, maybe even five or six, but
yeah.
with the Yankees, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's going to be quite as competitive as it was with the Yankees last time, just because that series was almost a coin flip, and I don't think this will be. All year long, my pick has been in the World Series, Dodgers over Houston. I've been saying it the whole year. And then I go to break down these end-of-season numbers here, and I'm looking at this, and again, the fact that Houston... They've pulled away. They really, and I think I trace it to the acquisition of Greinke. They've pulled away to where, again, statistically, they're on a tier of their own. You can check this out. The link, of course, on the front page at fantasydrafthelp.com, right at the top there. Again, the lowest number is obviously the best number, right? Because you're adding up the cumulative numbers in all the categories here. Houston's total number of how they rank in all of these categories, 17. That's because they're 1s, 2s, and 3s in every category except for one where they're 5. The Dodgers are second in all of baseball, but at 37. By the way, if you want to know what it means on this thing to be really bad, you go down to the bottom where Detroit is on a category of their own at the other end, 253. You look at 26, 27, and then a tie for 28. The White Sox, 212. Miami 226, Baltimore 235, Kansas City 235. So then there's another jump down to Detroit. That's how piss poor they are. But baseball again, it's sort of like the NBA a little bit, becoming a very, very, very stratified type sport. And for Houston and the Dodgers, I mean, there's almost I know that Houston didn't make it back last year. But had they gotten past Boston, this would be 3 years in a row of these two teams. I mean, this is as close as baseball ever comes to the Cavs and the Warriors, basically. Baseball is just very, very stratified at the moment, But between the two teams, I'm going to say with Greinke being there, they picked him up to put them over the top. I think they do it. I'm reversing every prediction from the course of the season. Dodgers to lose to Houston in 7 in the World Series, as with 2 years ago. What do you see, Ken?
Wow, I didn't see that coming.
Okay.
But from you, but tier 1, there is. That's a gap. Total 17 for Houston, like you pointed out also. And I encourage people to get on your site and look at this stuff because it's an eye-opener to have Houston in at 37. But two evenly matched teams. I mean, those in my mind, those are the two best teams in all of baseball. This is what you want in a World Series.
Yeah.
But whoa, now you got me.
You're agonizing. I can tell you're agonizing over this one.
I am. I'm sitting here thinking all the things that's on all the barometer and everything, taking the temperature of this, told me the Dodgers. And I would love to see the Dodgers take it in the shorts again. So I'm going to go with Houston also. This is the kiss of death for Houston. Two of us. I'm picking them. But I just like the way they play ball.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I don't like the Dodgers the way they play, but it's just I don't hungrier or what. But having said that, could be, and this is kind of going squirrel, so maybe I should just shut up here. Did the Dodgers lose their manager if they don't win it?
I mean, it seems hard to believe. I mean, if Dave Roberts gets them back to a third World Series, because again, they weren't even making World Series before he got there. They were bowing out earlier than that. And the thing of it is, like, all year long I've been thinking, because obviously they're on that strata, the top tier of, with the Astros. We thought coming into the year, the Yankees and the Red Sox as well. Certainly the Astros and Dodgers, I think, have really sort of separated themselves at this point, even though the Yankees have a very similar record to the Astros. The way that they got there just is not as sustainable in October, just bludgeoning teams to death. So you look at this, and my thought was, if they're just about evenly matched, this is the year the Dodgers kick the door in. That's what I've been thinking, is that they've been sort of building to this, progressing to this. They're too good not to bring one of these ones home. They're too good not to have it happen at least once. And I still stand by that, but I look at these Astros in this moment with what they have, and I think the Astros are better than anybody else, and I got to go with that. So, I'm reversing what I said all year. I mean, and that would be the thing. If I stuck to my guns, then I could be the guy that says I picked them in the preseason, I picked them all the way through the season, I picked them at the end of the season. I was right. I'm throwing that out the window because I want to be right when it counts, which is right now. So either my preseason one is going to be correct, or this is going to be correct. If they meet in the World Series. So actually it's kind of gutless on my part, Ken Detwiler, because I have basically, I get to claim a partial victory either way instead of going for the big victory. Yeah.
You're playing with house money.
I am.
No, I love it, Rick, because you're honest to a fault, and that's why we're friends, that's for sure.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I just like the Astros. And, the Dodgers spend all this money, and that's an MLB issue where they don't have a cap and all that jazz. I've cut that into 12. So, but yeah, I'll go with the Astros in a 7-game series. I think it's going to be a hell of a series. Good luck. We don't have to worry about it snowing.
That's right.
Being too cold, or hopefully not rained out in LA.
That's right. Two beautiful ballparks. It's always a visual pleasure watching games from either place. So, just aesthetically, it's always great. A lot of star power on both teams. It's basically the finest of what baseball could showcase. And again, it's a different sport than the NBA is, the way that they have concentrated star power, but this is the closest you could get to that 4-year run of Cavs versus Warriors, if it's Astros, Dodgers again, because this is the best of baseball being showcased on the grandest stage, and it will be, at the very least, a real treat for guys like me and you to watch those games, to take them in. And I'll leave you with this, Ken, that you're looking at a situation where Astros, if they are playing the Yankees in the ALCS, you will definitely see me breaking out the George Springer Astros rainbow jersey.
All for the gratification of people who had purchased colored TVs back in the day.
Yeah.
That's like, the teams got the all colorful uniforms, and the Astros were definitely that.
That's right. An all-time classic jersey. And very, very proud to have a Springer one, since I drafted him to my keeper team in 2013 when he was still at UConn. So, yeah, that is definitely something here. I'll certainly be rooting for them very strongly over the Yankees. That's my one rooting interest here in this off season, is just that the Yankees don't make it all the way, which as any folks from Cleveland like me and you would expect them to say. But again, with Houston in their way, with the Dodgers in their way potentially, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. But again, the one thing I never have to worry about is not having a great baseball conversation with you, my friend. Thank you so much for being here for the preview.
Well, thank you for having me, and like always, it's my pleasure, Rick, and I always enjoy talking to you, always. And I can't say that about too many people. Family included sometimes. But, no names, please.
Yeah.
So,
well.
But thanks again, and we'll see how it unfolds, that's for sure.
Exactly. And I'm not a family member or in-law that you've ever had to beseech to spend more money, so there's that. But we'll leave that as an inside joke, my friend. But yeah. Thank you so much for being here. The great Ken Detwiler, everyone, FDH Lounge dignitary extraordinaire and baseball analyst for the show. Thank you, everybody, for checking out FDH Lounge mini episode number 1154.
As we bring the show to a close, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, all Clear Channel affiliates, TNT, TBS, USA, UPN, Deadspin.com, YouTube.com, YTMND.com, MySpace.com, various blogs, Fox News, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, IamBoard.com, Billboard.com, Google.com, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Classic, NBA TV, NFL Network, Sports Time Ohio, Athlon Magazine, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, The Boomerang Channel, QVC, BET, The Spice Channel, Steno Notebooks, Manwich, Papermate Office Supplies, waitresses, strippers, bartenders, garbage men, janitors, microwave popcorn, the writers of The Office, Scrubs, Entourage, My Name is Earl, Oz, Metalocalypse and the Boondocks, Aquafina, and The Periodic Table of Elements.